Hey guys, welcome back to the dev channel, Max Codes. Today I'm going to be showing you in a two-part video series how to set up an SCSS dev environment, and it's actually going to be mostly done in this video. The next video is going to be really short, and it's basically just going to show you how to have your app automatically update whenever you type in and make any changes. Now this video is going to cover SCSS compiling right as you save your file, and it's going to have your SCSS code being generated into CSS code, and it's basically just going to teach you how to set up an SCSS dev environment. So let's just go ahead and jump into it, and I'll show you right now what project we're going to be building and how we're going to be building it, or how far we're going to get in this video. Yeah, you get the point. I'm just going to stop talking. Hey there. Okay, so this is the app we're going to be building. Yeah, I know it's kind of dumb, kind of boring, but it's really sick because if you change any of these SCSS colors, this is our HTML, I'll close it. If you change any of these SCSS colors or anything in the application, right? Like if I change this to like orange or something with an opacity of 0.46 and save that, and then I reload the page, you'll see that it automatically updates. So really kind of cool stuff. It compiles our SCSS into Sass. Let me change that. Yeah. Okay. So I save it, it changes it. And what it's doing is it's taking this SCSS and it's basically compiling this down into CSS, which is then being imported into our index.html. So pretty simple stuff. And I'm going to show you how to do it in about 20 minutes. That's how long it's going to take. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Okay, so go ahead and open up your terminal, or you can also do this all manually, but I would suggest following along in the terminal. And let's go ahead and let's create a folder called SCSS project. Okay, so say mkdir SCSS project. Okay, cd into that SCSS project. And then let's go ahead and say ls, no content. And we need to create a couple folders here, okay? So first thing we're gonna need is our SCSS folder, or our CSS folder. So say mkdir CSS. All right. Then say mkdir sass, and then say mkdir, and then that's actually all the directories we need. Next thing we need is an index.html and a CSS file and an SCSS file. Okay. So let's say touch index.html, that'll create a file. And then let's say cd CSS to change directory into our CSS folder that we just created. And let's say touch, and we'll say style.scss, sorry, CSS, make sure that says CSS, style.css, and then cd out of that using cd space ... And next thing we want to say is cd SASS for Sass, and then basically just create a file there. So we'll say touch, and we'll say main.scss, okay? So let's go ahead and review all these files by opening it up in our code editor, okay? You can also say open with a space and then a dot, and it will open it up in your Finder. And you'll see that we're only seeing main.scss because we are CD'd into the Sass folder. So let's CD back out of it using cd space ... Hit ls. You'll see we have a couple folders and an index.html file. Now if you hit open, you're gonna see that. Okay, so this is our structure so far. Let's go ahead and open it in our code editor now. I have a Visual Studio extension, or whatever it's called, a quick command installed that will allow me to basically open it by saying code space ... Maybe you have that, maybe you don't, but that's how I opened that. If you don't have that, I would just hit open here, and then if you see that down there, just drag the SCSS project folder into your deal, right? You can figure it out from here. I'm going to show you how to do SCSS, not how to open a project. Okay, so go ahead and close out of your terminal, or if you don't have an integrated terminal in your IDE, keep that terminal window open. And I'm sorry if you closed it already, go ahead and open it if you don't have a terminal in your code editor. In VS Code and Atom, it does. Okay. So first thing we need to do in our code is we need to go to our index.html file, and we need to just type out an HTML5 structure. I'm going to say HTML5 here in VS Code, and it's going to give me the boilerplate, okay? So you can go ahead and copy that in, or you could probably even just put like body and it would work. But go ahead and get that in, and then let's give it a title, and let's just say SASS/SCSS maxcodes tutorial or let's say dev env tutorial. I don't know. It doesn't really matter what this says. Okay, so next thing we want to do is basically just put some divs in here and make sure that we have everything on our screen. So if you're not at this point, go ahead, feel free to pause and get to this point and then continue. Okay, so go ahead and pause if you're not here, and then now continue now. Okay, so I'm going to put a div in here, and I'm just going to say it has a class of layout. And then I'm going to put another div in here, and I'm just going to say that this has a class of layout underscore navbar. And then I'm going to say space navbar. Now you might be wondering, what the freak? Why do we have two class names in here, and why is one of them all weird? Okay, now that's a very valid question, and you're not really going to understand why until we start using SCSS. So I just want to kind of show you, converting from CSS in this video to Sass, why SCSS is an advantage to us. Okay, so this next one I want to say layout content, and then I'll just call this content because that's like the content of our screen, of our application. Okay, save that, and we'll just say content goes here, content here, and then in navbar I want to create a div, and I want to say class is equal to navbar, and I'll just say links, and then in here I'll just put a bunch of a tags with targets set to blank, and then I'll say let's say subscribe, I guess, and then for our target, what we're gonna do is we're gonna say target, our href, we're gonna say https://www. and wait for the plug. I'm trying to get you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. maxcodes/sub confirmation is equal to 1. If you don't want to type that out, you don't have to, but I would do it because then you can subscribe to my channel when you click it. All right, so go ahead and copy that a couple times, and I'm just going to link you to a couple more of my social media sites because I want you to follow me. I'm just being dead honest with you. I'm not going to lie to you like these other jokers out here that are trying to get you to follow them on social media all sneakily. No, I'm going to be straight up. I want you to follow me. I want to connect with you guys, and that's not a lie. I really do. Okay, so Instagram.com/maxcodes.io. And Twitter, someone stole my name, so I'm going to say maxcodes.1 or 1. Okay, so just get some links in there. You don't need to put these links in, but just feel free to follow along if you want. Okay, so that's our HTML. Let's go ahead and now view this in the browser and just see what we got. So I'm going to hit open in Finder or reveal in Finder. Right click on index.html, reveal in Finder, and then I'm going to double click our index.html, and this is what we got. Okay, so let's go ahead and get some styles in, and then let's convert it to SCSS. Okay, so let's go to our CSS. Well, first we need to import it. So let's go to our title up here, and let's say link, and we'll say rel is equal to style sheet. And I had to type out this line like 500 times just to remember it. I finally decided I need to do that because I never remember how to import a style sheet. Let me know if you're the same way. I posted that on my Instagram story and people were laughing at that because they relate. All right, so put that in that line, types text CSS and href CSS/style.css. Dang, CSS so many times. All right, save that. Now go back to your browser and reload the page. You're not going to notice anything because we don't have styles. So go to your style.scss file. I'll open it up here just so you can copy that down if you're still watching and don't want to pause it. And then next thing we need to do in here is we just need to say layout, and then we'll say .navbar, and then we'll say .content. Now what we do with these other class names is we could use the ampersand in SCSS to say and navbar in our layout here, and then just write our style straight in there. But since this is just CSS, we can't do that. So just stand by. We're going to get to that point where we can in this video. Okay. So in layout, what we want to do is we just want to say height is 100 view height. Then we want to say display as grid because we're going to use a CSS grid for this. Then we're going to say grid template rows is 1FR, grid template columns is actually going to be 1FR, and then our grid template rows is going to be 56 pixels and 1FR. Okay, our navbar is going to have a height of 56 pixels and a background of crimson. And then our content's going to have a height of 100% to fill up the rest of the screen, and then it's going to have a background of cornflower blue. Okay, so get that in there, and then once you have this code in here, go ahead and pause the video now if you don't have it in because I'm going to move my screen. All right, get that in there, and then now in here, if we reload our application, this is what you can see. Okay, so really cool. I'm going to add a grid gap of 10 pixels, And then now if you reload the page, that's what you're going to see. Okay, so just a little refresher on grid and some CSS. Let's go ahead and look at some of the possibilities with SCSS. If I say and navbar, then all we'd have to do is that, and then we could get rid of that. Now I really love using the ampersand. Basically all that's doing is converting it to navbar or layout, because it's taking that and putting it there, and then we can put it in there. Okay, so that's convenient, except for I don't put code in there for like that for that reason. The main reason I would do an and or an ampersand and then the name is so I could say like grid row and put it on the grid, and then I do separate styles in its own thing. So more on that later. It's hard to see when it doesn't recognize it since it's just CSS, but let's go ahead and finally get into the SCSS part of the video and finally get it up and going. So great job if you're this far. Let's go ahead and continue. Okay, so this is where NPM comes in. NPM is, and Node is something that it's basically JavaScript. And if you've never used it, oops, I didn't mean to download that. If you've never used it, you're gonna have to download it and install it for this to work. Chances are you've probably used it. But basically just go to node.js.org and download it. If you're on Mac, just download the current version. I don't know. I don't even know what version I have. Let's see, Node version. I have 10.11. So just download the recommended one and then install that. And that's going to give you Node, which you don't really need to worry about. What we need to worry about is that it's giving you npm.js. It's giving you npm, which is what is required to run Sass. Okay. Now, if you go to npmjs.com and then you type in node-sass, there's this library called node-sass. And basically, this is a library that provides binding for Node.js to libsass. Don't worry about that because I didn't even know that's what it meant. But basically, it's going to allow us to compile our Sass code into CSS. And it's super easy. So just keep watching and I'll show you, okay? So basically, the idea here is, in our file structure, we have Sass and then we have main.scss, right? We want to write code in here and then have it go into style.css, okay? So what I want you to do is copy this code and paste it in main.scss and then comment it out, okay? Just comment it out. Because when we run node-sass, it's going to basically wipe our CSS file with whatever's in this file, unless it's a comment, okay? Actually, I don't know. Maybe it'll put the comments in there. I don't think it will. Okay, so basically what we need to do is first get Node installed, like I just said, and then go into your terminal, and now you're going to have Node and NPM. So say node-v, make sure you have this version or above, and then just say npm-v, and then you'll see that you have NPM. You're either going to have like 6.5 or 6.7. I don't think it really matters. It should work for both. If it's not working for you, just make sure you have the same Node and NPM version as me. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to type in npm init. Now this is basically going to initialize our package, and it's going to give us a package.json. You can just fill out this with random values, or just leave them all blank. It doesn't really matter. You're just going to get some errors if you or some warnings if you leave it blank. So I'm just going to fill it in with random stuff. I'm going to leave entry point blank. I'm just going to hit return now a lot. So just type in npm init and hit return a ton of times. You don't even need to fill that out. Sorry if that was confusing. Okay, so now you'll see that we've generated this package.json file, and this is where we're going to install our dependency to compile our Sass into our CSS. Okay, so that our computer can actually read it, so the browser can actually read it. All right, so what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to install node-sass by going into your terminal and saying npm install, and then say --save, and then say -dev, and then type in node-sass. What this is going to do is it's going to install node-sass into your dev dependencies in your package.json. So as soon as this is done installing, you're going to see in your package.json a little object appear with node-sass in dev dependencies. See? And then you'll, oops, I didn't mean to do that. So basically that's what you should see at this point in your package.json. And then you're going to notice a package-lock.json is generated. Don't worry about that. Doesn't do anything for us. We don't even need to worry about it. Okay, just make sure that that's in there, and then just, make sure that's installed, okay? All right, so that's how you do that. Now, we need to compile our SCSS here into our style now. So let's go ahead and close index.html, and we need to write a script. We can get rid of this default script and then just deleting it. And then in here, we just want to say sass, and you can name that script whatever you want. You could say compile sass. You can name it whatever you want. I'm just going to call it sass to make things simple. And then in another pair of whatever these are called, quotations, you're going to write node-sass, and then we're going to say sass/main.scss. All right, so we're taking our main.scss file, and then we're going to compile it into our css/style.css. And what this is doing is it's basically going to take the code in here, compile it down into CSS, and put it in here in a neat format. And then the reason this works is because in our index.html, we're importing our CSS file. So whatever code is going into our style of CSS is going to go into our index.html and apply to this. So when we compile our sass into CSS and it goes into our CSS file and then into our index.html, that's how we're getting our styles. Okay, so let's go ahead and test things out, okay? Go ahead and pause it if you need to check out my package.json. Pause it if you need to check out my main.scss. Pause it if you need to check out my index.html. And pause it if you need to see my style.css. And we don't need to worry about package.json. Okay, so that should have given you some moments to pause it and get in the right code you need. Let's go ahead and just go back to our application and reload it, and we shouldn't see any difference. Okay, so that's what I wanted to see. Just wanted to double check. Okay, so next thing we need to do is we need to go into our terminal and just run our command, okay? So let's go ahead and go into terminal here on the bottom right. And let's say npm run, and we'll say sass, okay? This command, or whatever you called it, okay? Make sure it's named that script. You're gonna see it says rendering complete, saving .css file, and then it says wrote CSS to, and then CSS/style CSS. So basically, it just took our main.scss and compiled it into CSS and put it in our CSS file. Notice how it doesn't have the comments. So that's one thing that I forgot, is it will not put in comments, okay? All right. Notice it deleted everything though. That's because it overwrote it. So basically whatever we put in here is going to go into there. So if we uncomment that in our SCSS, and then if we run that command again, it's basically going to copy this and put it in here. And remember how I said in a neat little format that it's going to just kind of make it compact, right? So that it is cleaner and that it runs smoother, right? So now that's how we do that. That's how it works. Okay. So now since we're importing style as CSS or style CSS into our index.html, this is gonna work. I should have showed you when it didn't have this in here that it removed the styles, but it did, and then now it's going to put them back. Okay. So now we can use SCSS in here. So let's get our background crimson in our SCSS file, not our CSS file. And let's go to the top here and let's create a CSS variable. Let's say $, and we'll say color primary, and we'll just put crimson, okay? And then now in our background here on line 14, we're just gonna say color primary, okay? Save that, and then let's go ahead and go to our browser, and let's change the crimson actually to like an orange color, right? Save that, go back to your HTML, and it's not going to work, okay? Reload it, it's still red. And that's because it's reading from our style.scss file, our style CSS file. So we need to compile this back into here. So you probably already know what to do, and that is run npm run sass again. You'll notice our style CSS file changes to that orange color now. Cool. So now when you reload the page, it changes, okay? But that kind of presents a problem, and it's that you don't want to run npm run sass every single time you make a change in your SCSS file, all right? You're probably thinking like, what's the point if you have to run that every time? Might as well just type things in CSS. Okay, so that's where -w comes in and live server. Let's go to our package.json, and over here in sass, let's go ahead and at the end of this command or script, let's say -w. What that flag is basically just saying watch. That's what that W stands for. So whenever we make a change, when we run npm run sass in our SCSS, it's going to automatically update. It's automatically going to run that script again. So go back to your terminal and run npm run sass again, or whatever you called it here. And then now, since it's watching, whenever we make a change to SCSS, it's automatically going to run and it's going to update our CSS file. So let's go ahead and change our crimson to this green color and hit save. You'll notice it automatically changes our CSS file, which is exactly what we want. So now when you go to our application, when you reload it, it's automatically there. So let's change the color again, or as a matter of fact, let's give a color primary 2 so we can have content have it. So we'll say color secondary, and then we'll go up here and we'll say color secondary, and then we'll put that in there, cornflower blue. Save that, change the cornflower blue to like a reddish orange or something, or whatever you want. And then now you'll see that our style CSS automatically updates. Okay, so super convenient. And then now when we reload this, it has that really nasty kind of salmon color. So let's change that salmon color because it's not vibing. All right, sick. And that's it. So that's how you set up your SCSS dev environment. Now in the next video, it's going to be just a couple minutes to get the live server working if you want it to update automatically when you run or when you change any of the code, right? So like right now we have to basically reload the index.html page. If you watch the next really short video, it's only a couple minutes, so way shorter than this one, you'll learn how to make it so it automatically reloads when you change something. So yeah, go ahead and click the link in the description if you're trying to do that. See you guys later.